Jim Roman, how you going? Another in the history series to come here today. A very windy day, so hopefully that doesn't affect the audio too much. Stringing a few of these together now. To be honest, partly because I'm not keeping up with the current stuff that well, but I think that'll probably be the next couple. For now, there's an awful lot going on at this point in 2008 that we're up to. I'll start with the title holders, though. Give us an idea of what we're up to there. So the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship is still around the waist of Wataru Inoue since December 2007. The rest of the titles have seen some changes, though. So the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship changed hands just recently on the 17th of February 2008. Akira and Jushin Thunder Liger. That's their first reign together. They defeated Prince, Devitt, and Minoru. And that is Akira's first title reign in over 16 years, since he was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion as Akira Nagami in 1991. Liger, on the other hand, obviously plenty of championships over that time, but he's been the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champion before with Great Sasuke in 1999, El Samurai in 2001, Minoru Tanaka in 2002, and Koji Kanemoto in 2003. So this reign with Akira is his fifth with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. On the same day, the IWGP Tag Team Championship, the heavyweight title, also changed hands to Togi Makabe and Toru Yano. Makabe's been of course, they ended the long reign of Giant Bernard and big fella, Travis Tomko. Both big fellas. Makabe's been the provisional IWGP Tag Team Champion before. That was with Shiro Koshinaka in 2006, but this is the first time he's held the title without an asterisk, I suppose you'd say. Yano is... he's never been champion before. This is his first time holding the title. He's only ever actually been the WEW Heavyweight Champion prior to this. Actually, similar to Makabe. That's true of Makabe as well, apart from that provisional tag team title reign. Because GBH recently just seemed to be passing that WEW Heavyweight Championship around, involved in that inter-promotional feud. And now, of course, there's the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, still held by Shinsuke Nakamura. It hasn't changed. He's won that from Tanahashi January 4th in 2008. But there is a significant... I mean, he is the undisputed champion now, whilst there is no change to the name specifically. Again, on the same day, the 17th of February, he defeated Kurt Angle for the third generation IWGP Championship belt to unify the lineage of the title. And I think maybe that's why they took the title off Tana at Wrestle Kingdom, because it didn't really make sense. There was rumors around it that made it seem like it was, last minute, might sound a bit dramatic, but a late change to the card to put Shinsuke in the main event and, of course, to go over. I think maybe it's because if Tanahashi were to stay champion and then to unify the titles, I don't know, he hasn't... What's next for him? He's kind of beaten everyone now. Whereas if Nakamura wins, you can, the people already believe in him. You can light a fire under him. Now he's got this, he's had this big moment of he's unified the titles. And because now it is... I mean, Tanahashi's never won the unified title. He only ever won in Brock Lesnar's absence. And more significantly, the championship belts and that lineage's absence. So it gives him something new to chase, which you might think is probably a stronger position, storytelling-wise, for Tanahashi at this point to be in. So it can, the win for Nakamura kind of came out of nowhere, but it probably did make things more interesting moving forward. Speaking of that championship chase for Tanahashi, he defeated Giant Bernard in the New Japan Cup, the first tournament of the year, and has earned himself a shot at Nakamura for the rematch there. And we're going to dive straight into that. On the 30th of March, Korakuen Hall, over 2,000 in attendance. There was a couple warm-up matches first. Tiger Mask and Inoue defeated Gato and Jado by DQ. Koji Kanemoto and Taguchi defeated Masato Tanaka and Tatsuhito Takaiwa. But then we have a couple matches here that are available on New Japan World. So, of course, as always, links will be in the description. But the first one is Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Takashi Iizuka against Togi Makabe and Toru Yano. I talked to this... I really talked this feud up on the last podcast, but I didn't want to say too much. So I think this is the point in which I'll go into a bit more detail now, since they're facing off. So let's set this match up. So, of course, Makabe and Yano, they're of GBH, Great Bash Heel. They had been kind of feuding with Rise this year. Of course, they recently ended Bernard and Tomko's long tag reign before successfully defending the titles against another Rise combination. Rise, of course, being the faction Tomko and Bernard are currently a part of, kind of just being, just moving with Nakamura after New Japan Black came to an end. But for GBH, there's, going back to February, that hostile takeover by Makabe, well, by everyone, really, against Tenzan. And since then, Tenzan's been out for revenge against his old crew. One by one, throughout March, he defeated Yano. This is Tenzan. He's defeated Yano, Honma, Jado, and Gato. There's also been some tag matches he's been involved in there. But in one-on-ones, he hasn't lost against any of the GBH guys he's come up against. But he has had trouble finding allies. And leave it to Iizuka to plug the hole, the perennial stopgap. So he is helping Tenzan to score tag victories as well. They beat Makabe and Honma. They beat Makabe and Ishii. And then after Makabe... I didn't mention this in terms of singles matches. Makabe did knock Tenzan out of the New Japan Cup. But then Tenzan and Iizuka beat the tag team... GBH's junior tag team, Jado and Gato, before coming up against the premier GBH tag team. And, of course, again, the current champions, who are now calling themselves, by the way, MVP. Makabe and Yano are MVP, most violent players. So... what isn't noted there is that Tenzan didn't really want Iizuka's help. He just wanted to go it alone. He just, he was crazy with vengeance on his mind. And Iizuka, I suppose, just kind of saw this opportunity as like, well... he's often in these kind of battles against like the big bad group. And... he, I guess, just saw an opportunity here to help out someone that he respected and agreed with and terms of what happened. I mean, even though Tenzan was the leader of a bad group, he was still wronged, I suppose, in some people's eyes. So, and it's important to note as well, I suppose, Tenzan, it's not like he's been a heel all this time. He's been, he's got that legendary status. It's not like he's doing heelish things this whole time he's been a part of GPH. That's really been, at least recently, run by Makabe, and yeah, they've been real menaces, but Tenzan hasn't really been a part of that. So, for that reason, it's easier to empathize with Tenzan. But, yeah, he didn't really want Izuka's help at first, and then he's kind of, just because, in order to have these tag matches, he's needed a partner, so eventually he's accepted Izuka on his side, and here they are going up against the tag champions. I do not believe that the titles are on the line here. It's just about the revenge for Tenzan. So the match begins with MVP rushing their opponents, targeting Tenzan, who has had a haircut and is back to his natural color. Tenzan and Izuka take back control, so Makabe threatens to introduce weapons already. No real surprises, though. Tenzan is beating Makabe in the ring, but he's attacked by GBH members on the outside and gets busted open. Izuka gets thrown about by Makabe in the meantime. The old leader's thrown back in at the mercy of the new leader. Yano tags in and uses his usual tricks, a little mallet that's tucked into his tights, and the loose tape from around his wrist. All the while, Tiger Hattori, the referee, trying to deal with matters surrounding the ring and missing all of this. So Izuka's knocked down from the corner multiple times, stopping him from being able to enter the match and potentially reverse the momentum. Finally, Tenzan lands a suplex, tags in Izuka to a rather mild reaction, as dramatic as it was made. He fires off forearms at both opponents and hits... Jesus, wind's going crazy. Hopefully it's not affecting the audio too much. He fires some forearms at both Yano and Makabe, hits exploders on both. Izuka's pumped up. He goes in for the kill on Yano with a knee bar. Makabe breaks it up with... he does break it up, but Izuka fights him off, then catches Yano in a sleeper, only for Makabe to break that up as well. Tenzan recovers enough to return to the ring for revenge, but as he sets up an attack, Honma holds his leg when he goes up top. Of course, from outside of the match, outside of the ring. MVP gang up on Tenzan again. Ishii provides a distraction for the referee. Makabe smacks Tenzan with a chair. Izuka tries to save him and cops a couple of shots himself for his trouble. Yano drags Izuka to the outskirts of the arena as Makabe takes his chain to finish the job inside the ring. Though Tenzan does counter, he locks in the Anaconda Vice. Yano's quick to notice and he runs back to make the save, but unfortunately for him, Izuka runs back too and foils their plans at a double team on Tenzan. Makabe grabs a chair. Tenzan kicks it into his face and hits a lariat, but only for a 2 count. Tenzan then finishes Makabe with the TTD to a big cheer from the crowd. They upset the champions in a very well-worked match. I mean, GBH are their usual selves here, cheating at every turn, but at least the referee generally had his back turned to their antics. And despite their poor behaviour, MVP proved why they are the top team with how fluidly they work together. And Tenzan earned the sympathy of the fans early. His comeback was simple, but it was a well-told story. The match flowed well, the psychology was on point, and it also sets up their inevitable rematch to be even more heated. I mean, they've certainly earned themselves a title match now, having beaten the champions, even after all that the champions put them through. And on that note, again, I say this every time, this kind of all the weapons and all the interference, it's really not my thing, but I thought this match was very good. on my rating scale of terrible, bad, disappointing, fine, good, very good, great, special. Very good. Very good. It was one of the matches that it made sense to have this stuff for. It made the comeback all the more dramatic, and it's what we want to see. This Tenzan beating these guys up that turned on him. And that wasn't even the main event. Also on World, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, Hiroshi Tanahashi having his shot at Shinsuke Nakamura. So we've kind of gone over this stuff. Nakamura's on a high. He's the hero of New Japan, having unified the titles. He is leader of Rise. What was that again? Real International Super Elite. He's starting to find his mojo. I think there's just been more signs from Nakamura recently, who has been accused of lacking charisma, that there's a little bit more coming out from him now. He's kind of got an I don't care kind of attitude that is starting to seep into what was otherwise. I mean, before he was, coming to the ring, just black trunks, black boots. He would do that little kind of ninja hand sign, get into the ring, look very serious. He's losing that now. He's loosening up. He's looking a bit cooler. He's growing his hair out too. Just for a different look, and he's starting to incorporate red into a bit of color into his outfit. But in terms of his recent matches, he's generally been up against his former teammate Chono's Legend team. I mentioned before about a bit of a feud with GBH as well, so it's kind of been between them and the Legend guys, or some kind of main unit combination involving Tanahashi. So they're tweeners here. They're facing both good guys and bad guys, and they really are kind of a tweener stable. None of their guys are straight heels. You've got Devitt and Minoru. Minoru's often been a heel, but still, these Devitt, people like Devitt, and they're kind of like a cool, pretty tag team. Pretty as in like handsome, Bernard and Tomko. Tomko's out now, but Bernard was, they were popular, especially for an American team. And so yeah, they're kind of trying to be the anti-heroes, I guess, is how they're being positioned here. But there's, in terms of so the only other thing to mention, I guess, is I'm repeating myself, but there's kind of that feeling that maybe Nakamura never really truly earned his shot at the title. So maybe that's makes this match important, that to maybe confirm him as the true champion in people's eyes. But and yeah, Tanahashi's the dude to do that over. Anyone else, it wouldn't have made sense. So Tanahashi made sure that he was that guy by winning the New Japan Cup for the second time, which is the first time anyone's won it twice. He had victories over Makabe and Bernard, which are two of the most bruising members of the roster, and he did that on the same night, so pretty big deal. That wasn't that long ago either, so he could still be beat up from that. But it's Tanahashi's chance to right the wrong of January 4th, take back the top position in New Japan's ladder. But maybe more important than any of that, a very, very important milestone for fellow belt nerds. This is the first appearance of the new IWGP Heavyweight Championship belt that lasted until the same day 13 years later, the 30th of March 2021. The fourth generation IWGP Heavyweight Championship, one of the most beautiful title belts that ever was. Nakamura comes out for this match with that around his waist. And the crowd are excited from the start, which is great considering the lack of noise in the Tokyo Dome for the last match these two had. But the reaction for the challenger is considerably louder, which speaks to what I was saying before about there may be some doubt over Nakamura being the true champion, which is funny considering not only did he win on the biggest stage, but then unify the championships. But it just goes to show how much good work Tanahashi's put in, over 2007. Really, that's where it was made, because no one was real convinced of him in 2006. In 2007, Tanahashi, mostly with his feud against Yuji Nagata, which I won't shut up about, that made him the real deal, a true champion, the top guy. And you can hear it in the reactions, both during the entrances and the formal introductions before the match. The fans are behind Tanahashi. But the camera does zoom in on Nakamura's gorgeous new championship belt, and it suits him well. If it doesn't suit you, you don't deserve to be called a champion. But they begin the match with the obligatory chain wrestling. But they're not timid for long. Tanahashi gains an advantage. He hits a drop kick, which he celebrates. Nakamura punishes him with a couple of scoop slams, and Tanahashi exits the ring to take a breather. Nakamura doesn't want to wait, though. He vaults over the top rope to land on Tanahashi and let him know that he's here to fight. He rolls Tanahashi back into the ring, but the challenger is there to meet him once he tries to enter himself, and a dragon screw through the ropes commences the targeting of Nakamura's left leg. It is interesting that they're both... Tanahashi's a little further along, I would say, in finding his character, or, the way he's going to appeal to the crowd. But, yeah, Tanahashi's going the arrogant route, whereas Nakamura is going the opposite way and kind of being he's starting not to care anymore, is more his appeal. Because these two, of course, it doesn't need to be said, the two top guys. Like, it's these two, and then there's a gap, and then there's whoever else is around, whether that be Nagata or, it's pretty clear that these two are the future of New Japan, the top two guys. But back to the match. Tanahashi continues to vainly soak in the crowd's love between attacks. One might think winning and losing the IWGP title for a second time last year would humble him, but it's had the opposite effect here, it seems. Although, he's also just got a lot of confidence. But the crowd erupt when Nakamura interrupts his momentum with a lariat. Further strong body kicks knock Tanahashi down and earn Nakamura a 2 count. There's a subsequent power slam that does the same. Tanahashi fights back with a drop kick to the left leg and his athletic flying forearm, an elbow drop, and his standing senton combo. He sets up and lands a senton from the middle rope, and that gets another 2 count. Tanahashi goes back to the leg with another drop kick, a grounded dragon screw. He attempts the cloverleaf, but Nakamura scrambles to the ropes right away. Tanahashi continues to slam down and stomp on the knee. He moves to the top turnbuckle for an attack, but Nakamura is still more agile than he realized, and while Tanahashi fights him off and lands a powerbomb, Nakamura turns it into a triangle, and the challenger begins to fade, though the crowd are chanting Tanahashi's name, and he begins to stir. Just as he's slipping out, it looks like Nakamura will transition into an armbar. Tanahashi turns it into the cloverleaf, and the crowd go crazy for that counter. They're cheering loudly as Nakamura struggles to break the hold, and when he finally does, the crowd continue to chant for Tanahashi. They're really solidly behind him. They strike back and forth. Nakamura slides out of a sling blade and lands a reverse power slam. Well, that would have been his inverted exploder, right? Probably made the... I feel like that's probably what it was, so... And I've noted it wrong, sorry. I'm guessing it was his inverted exploder. and the imploder. He tries to follow up with a dragon suplex, but Tanahashi counters, going for the same before a straightjacket German instead. It earns him a 2 count. Again, Tanahashi postures for the crowd before landing his first sling blade of the match. He goes for it again and is successful, but the cover only gains him a 2 count. Tanahashi goes straight to the top, turnbuckle, lands the high fly flow. Once again, that only gets him a 2 count. But the fans are getting louder and louder. He goes for it again. Now he hits Nakamura's knees. The champion somewhat regretfully feels at his left knee pad, because of course that leg's been targeted most of the match, but he had to do something to stop Tanahashi from coming down on him. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, Nakamura counters another sling blade attempt into a landslide and lands it perfectly. Somehow Tanahashi kicks out of that. The crowd are really into this match, and most of the noise is still with the cocky challenger. But Nakamura goes for the landslide again. Tanahashi slides down the back to make a pin. That's only for 2. They pin back and forth. Tanahashi lines up a strike, and Nakamura counters into the flying armbar. Tanahashi counters that right back into a pin. There's an O'Connor roll that goes close for Tanahashi, but Nakamura transitions back into the armbar. Tanahashi tries to stack him to escape, but Nakamura pushes him back over onto his back, has the arm, forces Tanahashi to submit, and while it wasn't the finish that the crowd seemed to want, they're still excited about having seen such a great match with such a wild finishing sequence. And of all the matches I've watched over the past few years leading up to this, I think this is the hottest crowd I've seen for the end of a match. And it really deserved that reaction too. Fantastic match. I think it's great. I rated it great. Because it was all about the match itself. The wrestlers didn't need to be overly characteristic because they have both been sufficiently presented as top wrestlers, and the prize they fight for has been sufficiently presented as worthy. Their history played into it, and into that fact, but not only the history meant that they not only countered each other's moves, but had counters ready for the counters in some cases. And it created this frantic back and forth that really made that finishing sequence. And I like that it's, Tanahashi loves this in particular, but the pins, I really like those pin sequences because it really drives home that it's about winning. They don't care if it's not about getting your favorite move in and winning with that. Your favorite move might be the way to win, but if you can find another way to win, like, let's win that way as well. It creates that intensity around the result being the main goal, the part of the story that matters. And it really showed desperation between them, competitiveness between them. So those are all elements for a good match in my mind, for a great match in this case. So again, it was on World. The link will be in the description, and it's most certainly worth going out of your way to watch. Nakamura remains the champion going into April. And here in April, the first event of significance was the beginning of All Japan Pro Wrestling's Champion Carnival, which is, I suppose you could say, their answer to the G1 Climax, for those unfamiliar with All Japan. And, of course, All Japan and New Japan have been working together recently, but perhaps most significant about this version of this year's tournament, 2008, is that Tanahashi entered. So Tanahashi, I'll set up the blocks. So we got in Block A, Tanahashi, also Taiyo Kea, who was his opponent a couple of years ago at Wrestle Kingdom, Keiji Muto, Toshiaki Kawada, and Satoshi Kojima. So how about that for a block full of legends? And then in Block B, we've got the American Joe Doering, Kensuke Sasaki, legend of New Japan, Minoru Suzuki, another legend, Osamu Nishimura, and Suwama, who is... I'm trying to remember now. Who is the All Japan champion at this point? I feel like I saw it change hands. Was that just in the last podcast? Let me just see if I can find it quickly so as not to hold things up too much. Oh, we did see the GHC championship change hands. Yeah, I think maybe that's what I was thinking of. Okay. Well, in any case, it might be Suwama, but I'm not sure. So, just from Tanahashi's point of view, I'm not going to go through every single match on this one. Tanahashi, he went the 30-minute distance with both Muta and Kawada, so only 1 point for each of those. I've got it here. It's Sasaki. Kensuke Sasaki is the Triple Crown champion. He went the time limit twice as well in Block B against Nishimura and Suwama, but then he was defeated by Minoru Suzuki in the last block match. But Suzuki's unwritten right to a title shot would take a backseat to the winner of this tournament. Now, the finals took place on the 9th of April. So these are the final matches, and I don't know if this is a semi-final situation or if I think they're just the final matches and the two top points face off in the final. So in Block B, Nishimura beat Minoru Suzuki, and then Suwama beat Joe Doering, putting Suwama at the top of Block B, 5 points. If Joe Doering had won that match, he would have been on top. But Suwama takes Block B victory, and then Toshiaki Kawada defeats Keiji Muto to put himself in the top spot, but then Tanahashi defeated Kojima to take back top spot and is top of the block on 6 points. Suwama only got 5 points, so Tanahashi had the most points of the tournament in Block A. But those two face off in the Champion Carnival 2008 final, Suwama versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. I did find this match. Let me see. Yep, it looks like it's still there. It's unlisted. But I'll chuck it up. It's a good version of it too, like pretty good quality. It's got the whole kind of, the package before the final, and it's got some highlights from during the tournament. So yeah, check out this one. Link in the description. Excuse me. But it's in Korakuen Hall. Sorry, I didn't mention that. But they've completely reversed in little more than a week, having previously been so in love with Tanahashi against Nakamura, and now they impartially see him as the villain. So, important to note as well, I mean, Tanahashi, of course, we've been following him, he's a rising star, but in All Japan, Suwama is the same. They're actually the same age, they're both 31 years old at this point. Tanahashi's not afraid to antagonize the crowd when given the opportunity. He's quite happy to play up the heel role. Of course, All Japan has a different set of fans, so sure, there's some crossover, and I'm sure there's some people that were attracted to this event because of Tanahashi's involvement that were usually New Japan fans, but you can't hear them. It's an All Japan crowd in there with their boy Suwama. Suwama, getting to the match here, secures his signature ankle lock early on, but Tanahashi finds a way out. Suwama shows great strength and deadlifting Tanahashi off the mat and throwing him back with a German suplex. There's a high angle back suplex that only gains a 2 count for the All Japan native. He goes for a last ride powerbomb, but Tanahashi dives over his head to escape and then lands a straight jacket German that goes, close to ending the match. The crowd are shrieking with excitement at these near falls. There's a sling blade that goes close as well, but Tanahashi scales the turnbuckle and lands a high fly flow. He doesn't pin though, he goes for it again, and this time, as what always seems to happen, he meets the knees of his opponent. Tanahashi puts everything into a cloverleaf hold and has Suwama in real trouble, but his balance falters and Suwama makes it to the ropes. A dragon suplex lands brutally, but Tanahashi cannot steady the pin correctly. Suwama fights back with a suplex and a lariat. He goes for the last ride powerbomb again, but once again Tanahashi escapes. He tries it again and finally hits it this time. Tanahashi's head violently bouncing off the mat. Suwama makes the cover and Tanahashi stays down. Suwama has won the 2008 Champion Carnival after a fantastic interpromotional final match with a red-hot crowd once again in attendance in Korakuen Hall. And I couldn't determine if the tournament final had the same 30-minute limit. If it did, Suwama defeated Tanahashi with 11 seconds left in the match. But that might just be a coincidence. Maybe the final is 60 minutes, and that didn't really matter. But 11 seconds left if it was a 30-minute time limit. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, Suwama hoists the massive trophy over his shoulder before taking the microphone, addressing the fans. This is Suwama's first significant win and honor as a professional. So it's pretty cool that the fans are so much behind him already. But there you go. Suwama kind of takes a step up in the All Japan ranks there with that win. I do recommend going and watching that match because, yeah, even just for the crowd. I mean, New Japan, unfortunately, has been in front of some kind of dead crowds as of late. And I don't mean that present day. I mean here in 2008 and 2007. So these back-to-back events in Korakuen Hall, just with the crowds going crazy, is fun to see. We'll keep moving along here, though. On the 12th of April, we're back on a New Japan tour. We're in Saitama. Taichi Ishikari defeats Kazuchika Okada. And this is rather significant because it's a return from injury for the lanky young Okada. He's been out for better part of a year, I think, at this stage. So good to see him back. But fails in his effort against Taichi, which is no surprise. I mean, first of all, just coming back from an injury, you generally come back to a loss in New Japan, the way they book. But he's still a young lion as well. So then we had another Tenzan and Iizuka combination. They went up against Makabe and this time Ishii, and they won, but they won by disqualification. So whilst I didn't find much about the match, probably just Makabe and Ishii beating the crap out of him and interference and all that stuff we have come to know from GBH that eventually led to a disqualification. So that was that one. The main event on the 12th, Bernard, Milano, Minoru, and Nakamura of Rise defeated Tanahashi, Carl Anderson, Koji Kanemoto, and Ryusuke Taguchi. The next night, on the 15th, back in Korakuen Hall, Inoue defeated Jado. I don't think there was any title on the line there, but there was a title on the line in the next match, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title. Akira and Liger defending against No Limit. And I found this match. Make sure it's still there. Quick click. There it is. So, of course, No Limit. Oh, gosh. Sorry. Bumped the mic. Could edit that out. Won't bother. Naito and Yujiro are the newly formed No Limit. In the last podcast, it was mentioned that against a couple of really, top juniors, they went the distance, albeit only 15 minutes, but still, held their own. And this is them really coming out of being juniors and starting to forge their own path here. I mean, they've been on excursion. They went to TNA, and in fact, I think they were a tag team when they went to TNA. So this has been building a little while. They're called No Limit now. This is Naito's first championship match ever, I believe. Yujiro had his first chance at gold in May last year. He lost to the then junior heavyweight champion Minoru. But the crowd's really behind Naito from the beginning of this match in particular. He lands a beautiful Stardust press on Akira, but Liger breaks it up, the pin. I mentioned that's only just recently become Naito's finish. I think I pointed out the specific match in the last podcast if you're interested in that bit of trivia. But to the disappointment of the crowd, Naito is soon after that forced to submit to an Old Boy, which is Akira's STF or STF abdominal stretch combination. So the young fellas don't get it done. Legend retain the titles, but they're on the move. No Limit. They're starting to become a... Well, look, I mean, the fact that they've challenged for the titles already puts them thereabouts in the junior heavyweight tag team title picture, so more to come from them. Anyway, a couple more matches on this show on the 13th of April. Tanahashi, Nakanishi, and Tiger Mask defeated Bernard, Goto, and Nakamura. Taguchi, in a one-on-one match, defeated Takaiwa. And then in the main event for the 0-1 Max World Heavyweight title, Koji Kanemoto challenged Misato Tanaka. We have talked about the rivalry brewing between them over the last couple of months. So Kanemoto finally got his shot at Tanaka, but was unsuccessful. They went over 20 minutes for this one, but Tanaka retains the 0-1 World Heavyweight title. Speaking of other promotions, on the same day, or same night, TNA held their Lockdown pay-per-view in the Paul Songus Arena in Massachusetts. And they had the TNA World Heavyweight title on the line in a steel cage match. Of course, Kurt Angle, we last saw him losing the third belt to Nakamura. But he still holds the TNA World Heavyweight title, or so he did, until this match against Samoa Joe. This was a main event announced a month prior on TNA Impact by the management director, he's known as, Jim Cornette. Joe proclaimed that Samoa Joe, on the same episode, he said that if he didn't win the title at Lockdown, he would quit TNA. So, a bit of a loser leaves town, but not really, just one side. So he was not seen until the contract signing on April 10. So just a couple, just in the days leading up to this match. And he said he's been training, and that's the reason for his absence. He signed the contract. He made it official that if he lost at Lockdown, he made it official that instead he would quit professional wrestling forever. Which seems kind of silly to me, because it just means that he's going to win, really. Unless he's going to... I guess, you know what? It's TNA. They probably void steps all the time, so it probably doesn't really make you think one way or the other, really. But this match is... it was a progression of a long-standing series of matches between Angle and Joe. Angle's won 3 of 4 of their past contests. There was at TNA's Genesis pay-per-view in November of 2006. There was Turning Point in December of 2006. Final Resolution in January of 2007. And then Hard Justice, August of 2007. And this, I know, without having seen all of it myself, is considered like a real peak in TNA and its history. So I would be happy to go back and find all these and watch them, but I don't want to get sucked into TNA. This is supposed to primarily be about New Japan. So this is a kind of a classic TNA series, and the next part of the story, the next chapter, I suppose. But Kurt Angle was legitimately injured going into this show, and it was believed that he may have been knocked unconscious during the match. So that's a bit scary for Kurt Angle. But at least if the silver lining is that without the championship he can take a bit of a break, then so be it. Samoa Joe, your new TNA World Heavyweight Champion, on the 13th of April 2008. And what else did we have leading up to... I think we'll get up to... we'll go through a few more here. The tour for New Japan continues on the 16th. Bernard Goto Nakamura defeated Tanahashi, Nakanishi, and Yujiro this time. So you can see it's kind of Rise versus that main unit. Probably primarily due to Nakamura and Tanahashi's never-ending feud. On the 18th, they were in Kyoto. It's only 500 people in the Kyoto Westin Hotel West. But I guess maybe it was like a cool venue or something. I don't know. Or maybe Kyoto just... Oh, actually, it was called Rising Dinner and Professional Wrestling. So yeah, I think maybe it was just a bit of a... It was probably in their like event space, the hotel event space, and I guess people were eating dinner and watching wrestling. Kind of interesting. It's kind of like those old school boxing events. On that show, Giant Bernard defeated Carl Anderson. Kind of an interesting combination there, but we'll come to that later. Minoru Nakamura of Rise defeated another Rise combination, Goto and Milano Collection. So pretty odd but interesting matches there. The 19th, back to a normal event, I think. Gainer defeats Kazuchika Okada. Gainer I don't know much about, but he primarily wrestles for Okinawa Pro Wrestling. Comes in to beat the new boy. And then Bernard Minoru Nakamura defeated Kanemoto, Nakanishi, and Tiger Mask. On the 20th, Goto defeats Carl Anderson. Tenzan and Iizuka join forces again, this time against Honma and Yano, and that one ends in a disqualification that goes the way of Tenzan and Iizuka, but once again, probably because Honma and Yano beat the crap out of them. Main event on that show was Bernard, Milano, Minoru, and Nakamura defeating Kanemoto, Nakanishi, Taguchi, and Inoue. Good to see Rise stringing together some wins now, because they were copping it for a while there. On the 21st, now it's Carl Anderson's turn to get a victory over Kazuchika Okada. Nakanishi, Taguchi, Tiger Mask did take a win back. I jinxed them. Over Rise, Goto, Minoru, and Nakamura on this occasion. Continuing the tour in Oita, Hirasawa defeats Okada. That one stings. Giant Bernard, Milano, and Nakamura take the win back. Nakanishi, Taichi Ishikari this time, and Tiger Mask. Then in Fukuoka on the 24th, Christopher Daniels defeats Taichi Ishikari, which is a bit of a warm-up match for Daniels before his title shot at Inoue, which he earned way back in February. We covered that back then. It was kind of out of nowhere that Daniels got a non-title match against Inoue. And yeah, he's kind of just back in Japan for this tour for his warm-up match. Good win over Taichi. Masato Tanaka came back over from 0-1 with Tokaiwa to defeat Kanemoto and Yujiro. And then Chono, who we haven't seen for a while, with Choshu and Koshinaka. I haven't seen any of these guys for a while, but the time off does them good. They come back to beat Bernard, Milano, and Nakamura, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but There it is. It's just a tag match. 25th in Fukuoka as well. Daniels in another warm-up defeats Naito, one-on-one. Kanemoto and Taguchi defeated Tanaka and Takaiwa to take back the loss that Kanemoto and Yujiro suffered. So a bit of 50-50 booking there, but just getting them amongst the mix, I guess. And then Liger, Chono, and Choshu of Legend once again defeat Rise, Bernard, Minoru, and Nakamura, the combination that time. And actually, the next event is a big one. There's still a bunch to get through. You know what? We'll call it there, because the next event is kind of the end of that that tour. I hope that wasn't too anticlimactic an ending, but we started real strong. We started with such exciting stuff going on. So I'll just do a quick preview. In Osaka, they get a big audience in. They have a big card. The junior heavyweight title's on the line, so Christopher Daniels gets his shot at Inoue. The tag titles, though, most significantly. I can't say that. Not the most significantly on the line, but it is Tenzan and Iizuka getting their shot at the champions in that, the violent blood feud that they've built up against Makabe and Yano, who are of course, the champions, but, in just such a short time have already just proven themselves rather dominant. And not only a title opportunity there, but a lot going on with that story. And then the main event is the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Nakamura defending against, I'm sure, someone he's always looked up to, pretty much everyone. It's the old Musketeer versus the new Musketeer. Keiji Muto is coming over to challenge for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship again. And so that's just a fun match because of the of who's involved, the star power in it, So that kind of rounds out April when we get to it. We'll get to it in the next one. Thank you very much for listening to this one. And until next time, have a good one.